I always remind my clients of that when they start putting too much emphasis on me. Alisha, you're great. You've been doing great work. You've been showing up for yourself consistently. You've decided that you wanted to do this. You're open to the process. You're trying the things we're discussing. I'm an awesome therapist, but at the end of the day, the reason you're succeeding is because you decided to do so for yourself. I'm just here to kind of help with that process down that journey. But it's not the awesome Alisha that made it happen. It's the awesome in you. So, and reminding you of that, it's not that individual. They can be great, but we can't put therapists on this pedestal as if they're the reason I'm better. I'm better because I mentally decided to be so, and I found someone to help me do that. And so taking some of that off of the therapist.
But I'm going to put you on a pedestal because you're an amazing therapist, and she's our Bold Black Girl of the Month. And listen to her; she just sounds like a therapist. She sounds like the person that just pulls it all out of you.
Listen, I want to take this laptop and just go lay in the bed and say, "What else, Alisha?"
Hello, and welcome to the Bold Black Girls podcast. I'm Aries.
And I am Kim.
And we have a very special guest. Now, we've had Alisha Woodall on our podcast before, sometime last year when we were kind of really getting into the pandemic. I think we had kicked it off. But she is our Bold Black Girl of the Month for the month of March. I'm super excited. We were really happy to have her as our Bold Black Girl. We're like, we need to just have Alisha because she's always out here doing big things. And I think what you do in the therapy, mental health space is very different, I would say, like to a typical, you're not just like a regular therapist in my mind. I feel like you have so many different ways that you share your knowledge. Yes, exactly. So we're super excited to just have her join us as we just talk about a couple of these. We got a lot of topics today, I think we could really talk about as far as the us still being in a pandemic and how that's affecting us. I told her that Kim and I could be her own little case studies for
literally
how we act in a pandemic. But welcome to the show, Alisha. We're so glad to have you again.
I'm glad to be here. I love when y'all invite me on.
and we're just loving the vibes. If you're not on YouTube, get on YouTube. She's just glowing butterfly vibes.
Exactly.
Vibes,
Yes.
So we could jump right in. There were a lot of things that happened this week that triggered conversation, but I had more recently is I told Kim, I said I couldn't be in the house anymore. I had to get out. And so yesterday, you'll see if you are on YouTube, Kim is not with me because I told her, girl, you can record from home because I was out here in these streets yesterday. Because I really just was feeling like I need to get out. It really felt good to see my girls and to go to brunch. We sat outside, most of the time I was outside yesterday, but it was a couple times I was not. So I wanted to ask you, Alisha, and I know you're practicing, during all this, like, what are some of the things you're seeing? Because I told Kim, I said, I feel like I've been in solitary confinement and I got out of jail yesterday for a day. So like,
very good about it.
Yeah. So what have you been hearing and how are people really doing right now?
It's interesting because the last time we talked, it was much about anxiety and depression. And while those things are always rampant and still going on, you're also seeing a lot of people who have moods lifted, who have found their hobbies, who have discovered different things that make them happy in the midst of the pandemic. So it's interesting. It's not as dismal as it may seem, even though we're frustrated and we're tired and ready to get out the house. A lot of people have found some great things throughout this time period of being in the house. And I think we even briefly talked about that a little bit, about how you have to find these things for you to love. People have found those things and have been nurturing them for months now. And now they're in a better headspace, not across the board, obviously, but I don't think it's nearly as dismal as it was when we talked a year ago. So.
Yeah, because people were kind of wondering, like, what's going to happen? Yeah, like so.
People adjusted better than they report, more than they report, you know. So some of the same things are still coming up for people, that the reasons they present for therapy that have always been there. Those things haven't gone away. But I'm also seeing some light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of people. People are really excited about new things, whether that be gardening, planting, different hobbies, starting podcasts, growing their business in ways that they didn't think about doing before. A lot of birth happened during this past year. And I think we need to talk more about that, so that, you know, reminds people that there are good things happening in this process. It wasn't all just horrible, adorable. There was some actual good things happening in people's lives.
Yeah, y'all been buying all the plants up. So y'all been buying all the plants up.
All the plants. Yeah. And so creating that living space, for me, that's what it does. I have lots of plants, but it creates life in the home. It feels like it's a living thing. And when I started looking at plants differently, it aided it wasn't just for aesthetics anymore. I do enjoy understanding the plant itself. And is this the right environment for the plant to survive? So a lot of times when my plants would die, I would blame myself and be like, oh, I'm just not good at taking care of plants. Some plants aren't conducive to my home, my lights, you know, how hot I keep it in here or how cool I keep. All those things matter. So when you become a real plant parent, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, you start really researching, is this plant suitable for my house? Does this work for me or not? Even though it's really pretty, I don't have what it needs for it to survive.
I love that analogy. And kind of going back to what you said and unpacking, I went back and looked at our podcast and we talked about like finding those hobbies, like you said, and kind of writing a list on what do you enjoy and do those things. So like that whole cultivating, I'm there with you. And I love the plant analogy. I literally just used it on another friend. She was talking about, I think it was about her son, and he lives back with his father. And she was just saying how the challenges, I was like, it's his environment. I was like, it's like a plant. You might need to change his environment in order for him to grow and thrive. I said, because he's not being nurtured and nourished there, he might need to come somewhere where you can pour into him. And she was like, I love that. So I love the plant. I need to start doing the gardening, because I feel like it helps you look at life different.
It does. And there was an article that someone wrote about it as far as self-care and how taking care of the plants is a form of self-care. You have to remember to kind of keep up with them, and you water them in their timely time. It's just all these things that make you be mindful. And, you know, mindfulness is huge. So being more mindful of our surroundings, mindful of our things, and planting and having plants, or being a plant parent, really does force you to do that. I'm just surprised that I have so many of them thriving. Like I think they kind of survive on their own at this point. The environment they've created, because they're all in here together, they got their own little ecosystem going on. So it's not so much me as much as it is they're in their space and they're thriving. But I look around, I'm just like, I'm keeping all these things alive.
Look, I have one plant, and I have one plant because I was doing what you said. I was like, I'm not good with plants and all that. And my mom is a plant lady, basically. And she's always been about plants since I was young. And so she always wants me to get more plants. And I'm like, girl, I don't have time to be taking care of them. like it's the animal or, you know, something to take care of. And so my best friend during the pandemic started getting into plants, and now she got somebody to talk to. So they, you know, she'll call and be like, oh my God, you know, like, and it's a whole thing. I'm like, this is a real thing. Like, y'all got a whole family going on over there. But my one little plant is thriving. I've been doing really good. I only have to water. It's a bamboo plant. I only have to water it like every 2 weeks or so. But it's been, I'm like, look at it. It's flourishing, you know? So that does make you feel pretty good. Like to feel like you're.
And take care of something, you pour into something and you see it doing well. It's such a mirror of self. When we pour into ourselves and we take care of ourselves and we're mindful of what we need, how much light, how much rest or whatever, it's very much symbiotic to the same thing. So you see this plant, like, oh my God, look at that. It's a new leaf. That means I'm helping it grow. And so it's the same thing with our pouring into ourselves, we grow. Yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. But I'm biased because I'm a crazy plant lady. So I'm gonna find all the rationales to make it make sense.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us, how many plants do you have?
I think last time I had about a little over 60.
So, oh wow. So do you water these daily?
No, when I first started, I didn't know any better. And I would water them just because I love them. Oh, here's some water for you. And you get some water and you get some water because you're pretty. And then next thing you know, my house had gnats because gnats attract moisture. And so now I'm gnat free. I water them probably every 10 days, depending. Some of them need more, but for the most part, I may miss at nighttime. I go through and I miss them, you know, and I have a humidifier to keep it moist in their room. But no, I don't water every day. They're on a schedule. And it's pretty much 7 to 10 days.
Okay. I didn't know that. See?
Come on,
playing every day.
Right. Nourishing and nourishing. All right. So you talked about like you have to nourish it. And let's kind of dig into like for me, I have had challenges with low vitamin D, which I believe most African Americans experience a low vitamin D because we haven't been able to get outside. I mean, I know we have supplements. And so now I'm trying to naturally get vitamin D. So whenever I'm driving, I let the sunroof back. I go for bike rides. Look, can you help us talk about like the effects of food and just in the environment, having enough rest in terms of thriving in the pandemic and even post-pandemic? Because I told Aries, I don't know if I'm gonna have energy to get out, put a bra on, and put on clothes and go to work. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think the last time we talked, and I mean, my three favorites were rest, water, and sun, right? And I didn't lean as heavily on, but through this pandemic, I've been doing more studying, and there, even in the mental health field in general, we're leaning towards this direction of being making more emphasis on diet. So aside from the sun, I mean, you can just go outside and a good walk in the sunlight is good for you. But on top of that, what we're eating plays a huge part. And there are lots of books, several books out there that are really good that talk about how the gut is directly connected to the brain. And so if our gut is a mess, our brain can't function properly. And when we try to tackle some of these just regular life stressors, it becomes almost unbearable because our brain isn't even in the position to do that work because we're not feeding it appropriately. So feeding our gut does matter. And so there's lots of foods that you can eat that are direct supplements to your mental wellness and your capabilities of dealing with different stressors. So if you have poor sleep, not getting enough sun, you're not drinking adequate amounts of water. I've heard people say that they don't drink water, period. I'm adults.
Wow.
I'd be like, oh, you running on soda? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but when you put that in, that's not judging anyone. That's just saying if you really think about that. I used an analogy once about the car. Like you wouldn't put that into your nice vehicle. You wouldn't put, Coca-Cola into your vehicle and expect it to run. You put the right kind of gas. You don't put unleaded, you put premium because it's a premium vehicle. So the same thing for ourselves. If you don't feed yourself premium quality products, you're running on slush. And the expectation that you're going to run well off of, chips, potato chips and pop, that just doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. If I'm not eating right, how can my body be functioning right? It's not just how we look in our clothes. It's our ability to literally function. And we just haven't given it a lot of consideration. So I've been leaning a lot into that during the pandemic, taking different classes, working on certification in nutrition, mental health, and just wanting to add that more into my practice because it's so important. It's been missed and overlooked. Psychiatry is really getting into it. Those who are into more holistic health for psychiatry versus medications, they've been really leaning heavy into diet and looking at what you eat. And so I'm leaning in that direction as well, too, because so many people are trying and you're like, well, what did you eat today? Well, I had, a Wendy's burger and a salad from Chick-fil-A. And while that may seem like not a lot, it's not a lot consumption wise. What are the nutrient density? Like what are the nutrients that you're getting? So people are thinking more like I'm not eating out. I'm not eating a lot, but you're not eating enough of what you need. So even if you're not overeating, if you're not eating enough of what you need, you're still working against yourself. You know what I mean?
So we don't like the salad from Chick-fil-A. That's not a good one.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that if you aren't getting enough nutrients, it's still working against what you're trying to do as far as being healthy. So yeah, you didn't eat 2 cheeseburgers and fries and a salad, but at the same time, did you get the amount of nutrients that you need?
That makes sense too, because I definitely feel like your energy, I know for me, I mean, it's a big difference when you're eating like whole foods versus, what do they call them? The other kinds? Processed foods. Yeah. How you are just in the morning getting started. I've been really committing to drinking water as soon as I get out, as soon as I wake up, like drinking
even by your bed. Mm-hmm.
Something that simple. I keep water by my bed every night, just because I'm like, it makes a big difference in the morning, like how I feel, when I get up and I'm like, if you don't, you could just, you can feel it. Like you can feel it. You should start paying attention to your body.
Clarity. Your brain will have clarity when you're drinking the adequate amounts of water and when you're eating foods that are conducive to the wellness of your body. All of it's going to work together like a well-oiled machine. And so we work against ourselves when we feed ourselves junk and then expect ourselves to operate at these optimal levels. But athletes don't do it. Athletes can't feed themselves that and then still, operate properly or at their highest level. And so it's the same thing for the human body in general. I may not be an Olympian athlete, but I want my body to function well. And that body includes the brain. And so when you feed your body well, you're also in turn feeding your brain well. And all of it works in tandem, the ability to function and to just see things clearly. Like something that would maybe knock you off knock you down, you have the ability to see it a little differently when you have clear brain. You're not as frazzled.
There are a couple brain foods.
Or brain fog, right? They talk about brain fog.
Like the foods that would help with clarity, per se.
Yeah, the more popular omega, the ones that have omegas in that, I think that salmon is one that people love, and people tend to, if they like fish, salmon is high in that. I want to say avocados are good for brain food. I have this handy dandy book. It's like a little Bible that I use that you can use, Eat Well, Feel Well. And it's just filled with different foods that you can try. And so what I've been telling my clients that get the book is to just go through, pick a couple of ingredients that you want to try out and make a recipe with. It could be a salad, it could be something, just throwing it all together and making something good with it. It's not as difficult as it may seem. It doesn't have to be this scientific project. Oh, I'm going to get oats and this and that and put them together and I've whipped up something.
What is it called? Eat Well, Feel Well?
Yeah, Eat Well, Feel Well. The top 200 foods to make you feel good.
Ooh.
Okay. We're ordering it. Yeah. I'll have it today. Amazon Prime. And so, yes. So what I've been doing is, and I did this when I was trying to lose weight. I always drank a gallon of water. So I love water, and I'll put lemons, limes, just infuse it with whatever flavor I want. Yeah. So I literally walk around with this gallon. I mean, I have a small refillable canister or whatever that I use, but I can tell a difference when I'm drinking a gallon of water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you will feel the difference. For Christmas, a friend of mine got me that hydrate water bottle. And it's so fun. Yeah, the one that kind of lights up to tell you, hey, drink some water. And I didn't try to go into it, but I am. I love it. And it lights up at the bottom. I don't have it here with me right now, but it lights up at the bottom and kind of like and then it sends you little messages on your phone like, hey, the desert is wetter than you are right now because you ain't had water in an hour. A few little phrases that it kind of reminds you, take some water. And then you get to challenge your friends as well. So like, kind of like, what is it, Fitbit? I never did Fitbit, but yes. Your friends can be on there and you can see who's drinking the most water. So it becomes, I'm drinking water just to beat Ebony.
I love that.
You don't know, but we get competition.
I have this app that I just started using probably about a week ago, and it's for intermittent fasting. But in there's a section for water, and so what I like about it is it does let me know, be like, hey, drink some water, or did you drink some water? You need to log your water, for today. So I'll be like, oh yeah, I do need to drink some water. Like it really does remind me, because sometimes you'll just be going and forget,
Yeah, it's good. Little tips and tricks to get your water intake up and make sure you're on top of it, especially for those who struggle with it and don't like water. Little things like that, adding, cucumbers or mint or whatever to your water, things that make it more exciting for you, but don't take away the nutritional value as well.
Have you seen anything with kids? Because I know, I got the boys at home and they're still not in school, but I've kind of started getting a little more lax with letting them like play with their friends, because like LJ, he's about to be 12 this year, and his friends are, a big part of his joy, being able to hang out with his friends. So now when he timed it, like when they're coming out of school, he hears them, they go out and he'll play with them for just a little while, just enough to they play basketball or do a little something, just for a little bit. And now he's like, oh my God, like that just made his day. So what are you seeing anything where, as it pertains to kids that are still not like back in school, how this is affecting their mental health, like being at home? Because that's something I kind of was scared of, like, y'all not socializing. I mean, I have 2 boys, so they're at least socializing with them, they have each other, and, so that gives me a little bit more peace. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, they still do need those interactions with other people to kind of, just grow and mature in relationship, right? Like in different types of ways. So what are you seeing in that space?
So I don't see kids. I see some teenagers. I take a few teenagers a year. I can only handle so many at a time. But of the teenagers, a lot more, and they were already, this generation, I feel like they were already kind of socially distant, right? And so now even more so, and being okay with that, but also just heightened anxiety. And the same things that you're seeing with adults, but you're seeing it in teenagers in a different way. And so sticking more to their social media things versus actually seeing people. And, Yeah, that part does kind of scare me. Like, because I don't think we'll see the effects of that. It's more of a longitudinal study. So, like, years from now, we'll look back and say the generation of kids that were in the pandemic, these are some of the behaviors that we're seeing with them. I think in real time, obviously, it's just that the detachment, right? And that struggle with being close to other people because they can't be. And so all those things are going to kind of show themselves, I think, following the pandemic. Once we're back to quote unquote normal or doing things a little more normally, we'll see some differences in their behavior. I anticipate that they will be more detached, have some issues with intimacy, just because, especially think about the kids who are growing up and that's all they really know, like the younger kids, like at 4 or 5, when they're starting to cognitively kind of grasp things, and now they're all this distance, we can't hug people and kiss. So I think all of those things are going to have long-term effects that we won't really see necessarily in real time. Like my son's only child. So it's been extremely hard thinking about, I just thought about the other day, a year of not playing with kids. That's just not
normal.
Yeah, if you have siblings, at least you kept that part of play going on. His play has been all via social media and Zoom, and that's just so the guilt that has ridden us to getting a dog.
Oh my God. Did you get one?
Not yet, but we're close. We're edging towards it. We're edging towards it.
Good. A dog will be good.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, sure. That's yeah.
I think a lot of people are making those kind of concessions for the kids, just trying to make sure they're okay. Like, what can I do for you to make sure that you're thriving in this environment that's very abnormal and not great for human, contact. So
yeah, I mean, I have my own guilt when it comes to being like a single mom, where I'm like, my sons are not seeing me in relationship, with a man, and how are they gonna know what to replicate? They have their grandparents and other people that they, but I'm like, I want y'all to see a healthy relationship and know what that looks like to hug. And, LJ kind of still remembers me and his dad together and stuff, and him smacking me on my butt when he walked past, stuff like that. Yeah. I want y'all to know that that's okay, and so sometimes I'll be thinking that, but I talk to them about it too. Like, I'm like very open with them about, what I'm thinking, in regards to that. And even I've had them, it was times where I was like on a dating app for like 2 weeks. And because them things, that don't work for me. I was like, look at this. Like I'm just sliding the thing and I'm like not liking anybody. But they just laugh, they're like, oh, let me see what's wrong with him. Oh no, like they laugh about it. I don't hide a lot from them. I try to just be as open about what I'm feeling because there's nothing else I can do about it, at this point. So yeah, I feel like that's some of the same thought process when it comes to like having them, wanting them to experience life, and get that interaction. So
there's a lot of guilt. And I think for parents, I was just talking about this with one of my other friends who's a single mom, and all this guilt and this concern about how it's going to affect them, blah blah blah. And I think what we as parents have to realize is that no matter what, everything, even these best things, the things that seem ideal, are going to affect them, and we don't know how it's going to affect them. I have adults in my office now who their parents, I'm sure, thought they were doing the best thing in the way they were treating them, raising them, whatever. But it turns out in therapy, so we got to take the pressure off of, I want to stop you from having to need a therapist, right? And then realize that no matter what life experience they have, they're going to take it how they want to, even your best intentions, right? So feeding a kid vegetables only, then they grow up resenting you because they never got to try chicken. And you were doing the best you could to give them a nutritious meal, right? So it wasn't intentional, but how they perceive it is how it comes out. And there's really no control over that. So once we release ourselves from this idea that if we're just so perfect, they're going to be perfect, and know that everything that they experience is going to be a part of their collective experience, it is what we do the best we can to do as little harm as possible, but we cannot control the ultimate outcome. And I know there are parents that have done great things, but the kids did not receive it that way.
I'm glad you said that. Because I had actually said that to my daughter. I was like, I did the best that I could. I didn't want to be the reason you needed therapy, right? But that's her experience. I did the best I could. If you need therapy because of that, she does go to therapy, right? And that's the update too, Alisha. I started therapy since we last talked.
That's the one that you like?
Yes, and she actually, our last session, literally, we started talking about the food and the mental health. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my God.
It's trending that way.
Yeah. So she was like, let's start trying to manage in that, making sure you're eating right, for your mood and your health. So thank you. As a result of that conversation, I started therapy.
That's awesome.
I upped mine. Look, I upped my session, so I go a lot more frequently than I was. I got another person because see, I I didn't have a black therapist. I had a therapist, but I didn't have a black therapist. I went and looked for a new therapist that I actually found through Therapy for Black Girls. Their page that they have, and love her. We've been meeting together since like December. So
I love it. It's something about when you find the right person, and you know, everybody isn't a good fit for everybody, and that's okay. But when you find the right person that you can really unleash some stuff with and get to the core of some things, you feel like they genuinely see you, hear you, and allow that safe space. To me, it's like finding a treasure, I think. So
it is.
It's hard to find a good therapist. It's not as easy as people would say, oh, just go on the register and find a therapist. You may not connect. They could be awesome for your friend, and you just like, how does she even like this person? I can't stand being in the face with her. You know what I mean? But for them, it's perfect. So it's finding that perfect union where the energy is right. And plus, you're ready. I always say when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. So when you're ready, and as long as the person is competent, you're going to be like, she does this thing ever. Because you were ready to do it anyway. As long as she's competent and ethical, or he or she, you're like, this is the greatest therapist ever. But really, it was about you being ready, you know? They're awesome too, but... And I always remind my clients of that when they start putting too much emphasis on me. Alisha, you're great. You've been doing great work. You've been showing up for yourself consistently. You've decided that you wanted to do this. You're open to the process. You're trying the things we're discussing. I'm an awesome therapist, but at the end of the day, the reason you're succeeding is because you decided to do so for yourself. I'm just here to kind of help with that process down that journey. But it's not the awesome Alisha that made it happen. It's the awesome in you. So, and reminding you of that, it's not that individual. They can be great, but we can't put therapists on this pedestal as if they're the reason I'm better. I'm better because I mentally decided to be so, and I found someone to help me do that. And so taking some of that off of the therapist.
But I'm going to put you on a pedestal because you're an amazing therapist, and she's our Black Girl of the Month. And listen to her; she just sounds like a therapist. She sounds like the person that just pulls it all out of you.
Listen, I want to take this laptop and just go lay in the bed and say, what else, Alisha?
These have sessions are going now that we're doing virtual. People are very comfortable nowadays. So in their bed, in their car, wherever they need to be, in their closet. So that's
definitely been in the closet.
Yeah, that's the up of it. The upside of this virtual thing is that people can see therapists wherever, whenever, so to speak. As long as they have privacy or whatever. So if you're getting off work at 5, it used to be that there was a barrier. If you couldn't get to my office by 5, so I can't see you till next week. But now I can get off at 5, go sit in my car, have my session, and then drive home. And so I'm not, that lack of having to transport and drive to my office, that's gone.
I love it too.
I do too.
Which is, I think, gonna be, me and Kim talked about this before, like when we get back to a place where we're really engaging outside again and really being incorporated into society and all that stuff, like how is that gonna, a lot of people that I know who've been in the house and stuff like that are kind of worried about that. Like it's almost another level of anxiety about how to get back out, into the world, and how's that going to be? So,
yeah, I think there'll be some anxiety about it in general, because now our minds have now been exposed to the idea of this whole, disease in the air type of thought process. And we never really functioned from that space. Like, yeah, if a person sneezes, you didn't really like that, but it didn't freak you out to the point of like, oh my God, do they got the COVID? Mm-hmm. So we're just more conscious of it now. So it'll take some time to massage that out to get back to whatever the new normal will look like. But we've been exposed to it. And once you know something, you can't not know it. Right. So, there'll be no more blowing on candles in my presence. Candles, those are gone. The birthday candle industry is rocked.
It's over.
Who's blowing candles anymore?
No, because I'm like, you blowing COVID all over the cake. Nah, I'm good.
No more candles. Candles are just gone. It's one of those things that we may lose in the past. I remember when my son was little and he blew out and this is my baby. And I was like, so we got to eat this cake because he had pizza in one hand and he was blowing and I was like, who gonna eat that? Everybody ate it. But it was before the time. But I remember thinking to myself, I had never knew candles were that nasty, but they kind of nasty when you think about it.
When you think about it, they are.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. So
get back to it, but we'll get there.
I want to I was gonna say I want to light this up a little bit on some things that happened this week with some internet celebrities. We had all of us kind of, whether you wanted to be involved or not, got into some people's family business when it came to Derek Jackson and his wife. Derek Jackson, who is this supposedly relationship expert person who was really just a dude who was on the internet looking at videos or and commenting on other people's life. And I think it was really more like giving men kind of like, I don't know if he was like not hating on guys, but like shaming guys or making them feel a way about how they act towards women. And so what it did was like cater to the women's side of that industry. So women were like, yeah, tell him, Derek, like he's like, hey, you don't want a woman like this. You need to, you need to do this and do that. So he kind of came out with this, not that he had the credentials or anything, but more so like, hey, I'm this stand-up guy and let me teach y'all how to treat a woman and all this and that. And so this week it kind of all blew up where come to find out this man had been cheating on his wife. And first of all, didn't know he had a wife. But I don't follow him like that because I don't follow any of those dudes who be trying to tell women what they need to do to be good or vice versa.
You chosen.
Yeah, it's like, who are you? Go talk to somebody else. But I feel like he was doing what I probably would tell a guy to do is like, go talk to these men and get them together, right? And that's really what he was like doing, but in kind of a way that was like, you cheated on your wife? You're this, and that. And it's like, you literally are talking about dudes doing the same thing that you're doing, And what I found kind of disheartening, first of all, he seems like a big old narcissist. That's, the way that he was behaving. But his wife, I was really kind of, at first it was coming off like, like, why she dressed like that? She looked, bummy while they on this live video, whatever. But then you kind of take another layer away from that. And I was like, she seems like she got a lot of stuff going on, mentally.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, or did you see all that stuff kind of come up, and what were your thoughts kind of behind that? Because that was the part I was kind of concerned when I was like, we're her friend, somebody needs to go get her. Like, I feel like she needed some help.
Yeah, it definitely would. I mean, but that's also coming from the place of knowing how most women react to a cheating situation, right? And I don't know how, like you, I don't follow them, so I don't know the ins and outs of how recent this is, how current it is, if she's over it or not. But I just was, I was mindful to the fact of how women or anyone in general who's been cheated on, how that feels and all those emotions that are going on, but then trying to save face on a social media level. Like, it just felt like a lot to be asked of you. Like, I'm trying to deal with my emotions around what's happening in our personal private relationship. And I'm also trying to keep face because this is our quote unquote bread and butter. That was also my thought process is that, we got to save this bag any way possible. So sure, get on this live with you and talk about how everything is okay. And in reality, it not be okay. So yeah, it was concerning to say the least, just on so many different levels though. Like, cause it's hard to say without knowing them personally, but just looking at, all I could think about was how women hurt when they find out that their husband has not been faithful and how much that takes emotionally. And then to add on top of that, like you said, the different layers that came with it, that it's out in the front. Most people get to suffer in silence, right? Nobody has to see it. Nobody knows your husband cheated on you last night when you show up to work. And now have all this people talking about it, discussing it, people leaving nasty comments. It can just snowball really quickly and become extremely difficult to deal with emotionally. And if a person who's not already strong is already in a weakened state mentally, it's just not, the social media ain't the space for you to play.
Yeah, I'm like, social media is so evil. I mean, like, it will just tear you apart. And when I looked at her page, because she started posting stuff, and I was like, stop, get off the internet, just go away from the internet. Like, right now, just go away. She had stuff that looked like she'd been going through for a while, like for a lot of reasons, just on her own, identity struggles, comparing herself, knowing clearly this man been doing stuff for a while, because she was, some of her posts, I feel like her look was really in protest to, expectations and all these things. Like, that's kind of what I got from her other posts, that was like, oh, she know how to put makeup on and have her hair done, because she's had that. And she was saying how she was doing that, trying to keep up with what she felt like he likes, and these women that he would be attracted to and stuff like that. And then it kind of got to a point where I think she just was like, I'm just going to look whatever. I don't care what nobody say, or whatever. So it was a lot there that I was like, this sucks. And
social media will do that though. It'll have you thinking that the way you look isn't good enough or right enough or whatever. Somebody posted a picture of Marilyn Monroe back in the day before there was like all the different kinds of photo editing or whatever. And it was just a regular old body. It wasn't nothing curvaceous about it. It was just a regular old body. And I mean regular in today's standards specifically. And it's just like, yeah, but we've let these Photoshop photos really distort our idea of what beauty is. And we find it hard to see beauty in the natural things and how things just are. Yes. So her included, it was sad to watch.
And the internet with all the booty implants and everybody got that same waist. I'll be like, now I ain't mad about the mommy makeover because these kids have your body looking all kind of crazy. But that extra is like that same waist that you see everybody have with the fake stomach, little belly button, and then big butt, and I'm like, okay, when did we get here?
When did everybody get that? Like, how's everybody fine?
Right.
You can just be a couple people were fine and everybody else is just regular. So we felt really good about that. And now it's like everybody is fine. So it can really distort your self-esteem and your self-worth. And it can tear you down. And then, obviously when someone cheats or there's infidelity, we know it's about the other person and their own insecurities, but it always feels like it's about something that's lacking within us. Something's wrong with me to where he or she is seeking outside of our relationship. And so those are just normal things that happen after an affair. So to couple that with social media and there's a reason she hasn't been in front of the camera. Some people just have it, some people don't. And she's not that person. And
my thing is a lot of people are on this internet and they are coming off like they're experts and like, look, I tell everybody listening to this podcast right now, I'm not perfect, child. I'll be out here messing up, acting up, and all the good things. So, and the bad. So do not be looking at me like I'm some like, you are so, yes, I do some good things. I'm an overall general good person. I love the Lord. I'll be trying, but God knows sometimes I'll be like, Lord.
As do we all.
What is wrong? Why I do that? I knew I was doing that. Like, this is crazy, but being as authentic in that as possible, right? So I'm not going to be that person that really comes off trying to point my finger on any scenario because you just never know where you're going to fall in that, one day. So I think and
nobody's posting their failures. Nobody's posting. I'm going to post my living room when it looks pretty, not when I have my laundry that's been sitting there since Tuesday. And that's a reality. It's happened. You know what I mean? My house is going to look a certain way on Thursday than it might on Saturday when I invite my friends over. So all of these things are about how we present ourselves. And nobody presents that self that's just laid back. I haven't done dishes. That self. Like if you haven't done your dishes, that's a problem. So I think we just need to present who we are authentically. That doesn't mean tell all your business. It does not mean to share everything on social media. It just means to keep it in perspective that everything that is shared is typically the highlight and not the reality of life. Some of these houses with little kids, I'm like, how? How do you keep it like a magazine? How do you do that with, 2 kids under 5 years old running around? The reality is the part that's not caught in the camera is where the kids are playing. But this part right here is pristine. Doesn't it look nice? Meanwhile, over here to the left, outside of the view of the Zoom, is all kind of stuff going on. Toys and juicy bottles and all kind of stuff. So it's just...
You don't want to see this studio right reality. You don't want to see what's happening behind this... This right. Look at this.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But over here, I tell you.
Amazon box, right? The Amazon box is my podium. Meanwhile, it looks so lovely behind me, but the Amazon box,
Exactly.
I love it. So one thing I did, or one other thing I didn't want to unpack, Alisha. So, of course, you get on these, you texting with your friends. So we came across this meme. It kind of goes into like what the Derrick Jackson. And so Ari sent it to me and she said, my toxic trait, I'm always prepared to never speak to an MF again in life. I wanted to kind of unpack that because I could relate to that. And Aries, I think you can as well. I don't want to speak for you.
Well, I told Kim, I was like, listen, I will block. I'm the queen of block. If you look at my phone, I could scroll the people that I have blocked off of my phone.
Oh, wow.
It's really bad. And when we were talking about the Derrick Jackson thing, I said, Kim was like, would you have left? Would you leave him? Right. Like we just, you have that conversation. I said, girl, I'll be leaving these foods for way less. So don't ask me. I'm not the person. So yeah, go ahead, Kim.
And so, I want to unpack that. Like, how do we, I don't want to be a queen of cutoff. And I don't think I'm a queen of cutoff because I like to, we read this book. It was by Sophia. Gosh, I can't think of her name. Nelson. She talked about cutting and untying. Yes, the woman code. Sophia Nelson.
What's the name of the book?
The Woman Code.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And she talked about in relationships, cutting versus untying. And so untying doesn't mean you're cutting. It's like, hey, okay, I may need to take a break. It doesn't mean that this relationship is over with, right? But when you cut means like we're done. And so when I think of cut, that's like I'm always prepared to never speak to someone. I don't know if that's a healthy trait. Can you kind of help us unpack that, and maybe where does that come from, and how can we stop doing that? Because I feel like in the Black community, we're so quick to cut people off instead of like directly addressing what the issue is and trying to work through it.
It sounds like you kind of answered it yourself as far as like addressing the question or addressing what the issue is when it's necessary. Like you have to gauge, is this relationship worth me delving into this from an emotional aspect where I want to have this conversation and talk this out? And so you're kind of determining at that point whether it is or it isn't. So does this person matter enough to me? So friendships or relationships that matter, you will dig deeper. You will ask some questions. If it were between you and Aries and something happened, odds are high that you're like, hey, let me talk to you about what happened the other day. I want to really let you know how that made me feel. Whereas if it's somebody you met last Tuesday at a barbecue, and you're like, I see it's a shady individual, I'll choose to cut that person off. That's different. And so I think it's healthy to gauge when it's appropriate to do that and when it isn't. Sometimes it is appropriate to move on. Other times, maybe you could have explored that more. It really does matter on the level of the relationship and how much you care about that individual. Is it worth the emotional tax or gas that it's going to take to dig deeper into this, or is it better for me suited for me to just let it go and be done with it all? I mean, when we say things are healthy or unhealthy, it really is on this spectrum. Some things may seem unhealthy, but the reality is, did you walk away from good situations you should have walked away from? Then that was a healthy thing. That's not an unhealthy tactic that you have or a character trait. If you did it in times when you should have. If you're doing it, like say for instance, you're cutting off your mom and your auntie, your aunties and all them, anybody who doesn't do what you want them to do, something to explore. So I think for each individual situation, asking yourself two things: how valuable is this relationship to me? And with talking about it, be worth it for me. And that's it. And once you answer those questions, you can move accordingly.
Love it.
Valuable relationship. What are we going to talk about? If it is a valuable relationship, can we work through this? Can we talk through it? Is it worth me even trying?
Yeah,
I'm out there. Let me get my tea.
I was gonna say with my friends, I definitely try to work through. I probably only had a couple of times where like friendships that just were like, okay, we can't revive this, or whatever. But it was after trying, right? Like trying to talk through, trying to work through, and then just realizing like, hey, we need to go a different direction. We just need to end this, but I feel like in relationships, I'm way more romantic relationships. I'll say I always end up in this space where I'm like, dang, why I can't give the grace that I give my friends to people that I'm in these relationships with. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'm good.
Well, probably because there's a history there of being hurt. And so the brain remembers. And so with friendships, when you try to talk it out, maybe you find you have a good outcome. Typically, when I try and talk it out with my friends, the outcome is great and we back brunching again the next weekend. Whereas with relationships, romantic-wise, if that has not been the outcome, it's almost like I'm not giving any grace here. I've been here before and I just get drugged down the street. So hard to pass, I'm not doing it again. So it's all about that memory, that trauma memory of how this turned out in the past. If it's turned out well before, then I'll try it again. If in the past it has not turned out well, you may get more of that cutoff mentality. But it's just still each time you have to explore it each time with each relationship and not just be this blanket statement, I cut everybody off. No, I cut you off based on my evaluation of whether or not this is a cutoff situation.
Got it.
Ain't nothing to cut that off. Oh man. Yeah, no, that was some good points there. I think that's
very good point.
That's a lot of it too. As well. So yeah, we had a lot
of grace in romantic relationships too. They just don't talk about it. That's talking about that part. The part where people will be in romantic relationships and it's just a horrible situation. And they'll fight through it for years.
Mm-hmm.
They should have probably cut it off, right?
Huh?
When they should have probably cut it.
Likely, yeah. Or done something different. But yeah, there's a lot of grace in romantic relationships. A lot of couples that we see that are seemingly so happy. On the underside, there are things going on. And they fighting through it or choosing to stay or whatever you want to call it. But most people don't cut off as quickly as they say they do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Especially in a marital situation. People will fight through that. Men as well. Men never talk about staying after a cheat, but lots of men will stay after some infidelity. They say they don't, but
Interesting.
They're just not telling us about that.
They're not talking about it.
Just like
talk about
would.
how much men are hurt behind divorce and infidelity on the other side. That's not discussed either. Men be just as much in shambles after divorce as women. But typically the narrative is that the woman is hurt. If you hear about a divorce, the first thing you think is, oh, I wonder if she's okay. She's bad. As if he's fine because he's back in the streets, he good, he back popping. Right. But the reality is that both of them are equally hurt in different ways. It may be his ego that's wounded, whatever. But men hurt too. We just don't talk about it. They out here hurt.
And I wonder, because I've seen that with certain friends that I know that are they have issues in their marriage or whatever it is, and how they react to it. It presents itself very different than what a woman usually is going to go to her girlfriends, talk about it, and kind of have that outlet. And a lot of times guys, they won't, so they might do something else, just to
turn up. They turning up, like they're having a good time. They're back out in the streets with their friends again. All these things that look like they're healing just fine. He's clearly okay. But meanwhile,
he's really hurting.
Yeah, just as hurt. Men are human. They have the same exact emotional set as women do. Mind you, we operate differently. I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, we all have feelings. And if you cheat on a man, he's going to hurt just like if you were cheated on as a woman. He's going to feel insecure about his body the same way you would feel insecure. Like, why would she go out? Why would she stay? Is it not good enough? Is it not big enough? Is it not great enough? All of those same questions that we have as women, men have as well. They've just done a really good job from a narrative perspective of making it seem as if they're tougher than that. But the reality is, I tend to lean on the side that women are more emotionally resilient than men. But the narrative has always been, because we live in a patriarchal society, that men are stronger with these things. They do not deal well with rejection and hurt. Think about how many times that we've had our heart broken as a woman all these years, from high school on or whenever, and you're resilient, you rebound, you keep moving. You break a man's heart one good time, and it could be broken and out of commission, period.
They are done. I think guys that try to sabotage the relationship in a way to where the woman will be the one that pulls the trigger on it, to end it, so that they don't have that guilt on top of whatever else. Like, I've seen some stuff. I'm like, you don't want to even be in this anymore. Like, why are you're waiting, trying to do different things to get her to end it instead of you looking like the bad guy, or whatever. It's like all these different things that I've seen. How guys will react to like the pain or the this or the these different things. I'm like, ooh, it's a lot going on like that.
That's a whole other podcast right there. Right. Yes, that is the whole other podcast.
Yes, but this is good. I think that we needed some an outlet here to talk, because I told Kim, I was like, girl, I literally felt like free yesterday when I went out, and I'm like, but then again, I was feeling like, was it worth going out? Should I have went out? I don't know. Like when I got back home, I was like, I hope everything is good. You're still scared. Like, I hope nobody I was around had COVID, and all that kind of stuff. And feeling guilty. I was like, I'm not taking no pictures. I don't want this on the internet. People be judging, because I know I'd be judging. I'd be seeing people out in the big old crowd. I'm like, hello, pandemic, where we was in the, and so,
no, I know exactly how you feel.
Fluctuating in all those emotions.
It is definitely a risk of like, hey, is it going to be worth it? Because I do put myself at some type of risk. So, I mean, it is not healthy to be in the house cooped up. So it's probably good that you did get out. I'm glad you got out. And you just pray and hope for the best.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
But that's a good point, Kim, is that physically, we've been maintaining our safety by staying at home, but from a mental space, we are humans and we desire contact. And so it's nothing wrong with the body saying, I really do want to be around my people. I really want to see and be around people that I love. And I've never judged that part of it. It's when it's reckless, just for the sake of being around a bunch of strangers. It's one thing to be in a space and you're with your people that you love, and you really took that risk for that reason, because I needed to see them. I needed to be near them. And so, you did what you had to do. We're at that place, I think, where it's kind of shifting a little bit. We're hearing about people getting vaccinated and things are opening up, whether they should be or not, that's whatever. But the point is, I think they're mentally kind of making us feel like it might be a little safer to go out. And so more people are starting to do that a little bit more outside in brunch spaces or whatever.
Yeah.
I felt guilty, so guilty, just for going out with my friends. And it's a small setting. It wasn't this big thing, but you still feel it afterwards.
Right.
I saw the picture and I was like, ooh. is that me? In the middle of it? My friend? So yeah, I definitely can relate to that, Aries. I think a lot of people can though. But most people are not putting their pictures on social media. So it's one of those things, they're not showing it. It's happening, but we're not showing it.
I think we're going to see a shift in what people are posting. Actually, you won't see that they're posting that they're out and about. Actually, so
no,
you won't see judgment.
You see some of those judgmental statements go away too because they know they was at brunch yesterday. So none of that pandemic it'll be gone because the guilt will be there, so they won't post that.
True.
Yeah, because that would be me. I'll be the one who would have been judging, and then it'd be like, "Well, I ain't gonna say, okay, y'all. I was at brunch too, so I can't even talk."
We're getting there. We survived it though, y'all. Like, remember
and that's a blessing.
Conversation. We survived it, and we didn't know how or what is it going to be like? We were so questioning everything, and now here we are. I mean, your podcast is thriving. I'm sure you both could update me with things that are thriving in your lives throughout this past year. And I really wish we start leaning into that a little bit more and talking about that more. What are the great things that came from the pandemic? We've been talking about death. We've been talking about sickness and isolation and depression, which are true and very real factors. But we have to start talking about the upside of this, the things that have came out of this that were great. And more people need to hear those stories than they're being told, in my opinion. It's just too much talk about the bad part of this. And there are some great things that came from this pandemic.
That is true.
Change the perspective, right? Highlight the good.
What we could end on today is you talking to us about some great things that you have. Anything you have coming up? Anything you've been doing different? Any new projects that you have been working on?
So much stuff, yeah. We're doing the Inner Treat again this year. We took a year off last year because of the pandemic. So Inner Treat is this annual retreat that I do for women here in Dallas. And so me and my colleague, Janae Francis, who's also a therapist, we get together and we do a weekend of just introspective work. It's amazing. I promise you, I'm not just saying it because it's mine. We really do some in-depth work with these women for the weekend. So we're doing that again. That'll be in November. And then I am working on a group project where I will have women together collectively going through a therapeutic process for about 10 weeks. It's a 10-week program that will help you dig deeper into yourself and get to know yourself better. So it's going to be an awesome experience for those who get it. It's very in-depth, right? It's not just your casual group masterclass type of thing where you watch a video of me talking and then, do what they really will. It's a very much so collective exercise.
I love that.
If our listeners are interested, where should they follow you to get this information, to get the up-to-date information when it's released?
Yeah, so on my Instagram is where all that'll be released when it is released. So follow me on Finding the Foundation on Instagram. Finding the
Foundation on Instagram, and she posts a lot of good little informational nuggets for you as well.
I'm not a guru, but I love self-care. I love talking about self-care and loving yourself. Like if there was something about me, I would say it's self-awareness. Like I am so big on self-awareness because it's the key to everything else. When we are aware of ourselves, our ability to function and operate is improved. And so I just really want people to be introspective. If you're not doing therapy, do some journaling. If you're not doing journaling, do some meditation. Do all of them. But anything that gets you in your head, understanding yourself better is key for you, is gold for you. If we would just do it, if people knew how science of human behavior really worked, they would dig into themselves every single day, just trying to know more about why do I do this, if they really understood it. So that's my thing. It's just digging into yourself, either therapy or journaling. Pick one.
And that's our thing as well. I feel like that's kind of, that's how Kim and I bonded and connected as friends, both being those type of people that really were like geeking out over personality assessments and different books that we were reading. She's the journaler. I'm not, but I do we enjoy reading different types of books about how to be better and happier and thrive. And what's your Enneagram and what's your Myers-Briggs? And like, we just fall in love with that kind of stuff. So
click. And I will say, I struggle with clicking with people who are not self-aware. Like it drives me insane. And that's when I'm about to cut you off because you're not self-aware of what you're doing.
Not even trying to know yourself better. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I really am struggling with that. And I'm trying to give myself and those people grace. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? If I'm vibing with this self-aware person, I got to go with them. Yeah. I got to ride and roll.
Yeah. Because that is so, I feel like that really does it's going to accelerate your growth, right? Like growing, you can't really know what to work on if you're not digging, right? Like, and some people are scared to dig because they're scared of what they're going to find. And it's like, but you got to find it to fix it and to get better.
You cannot practice like everybody loves self-care right now. It's the trendy topic. Self-care, right? Self-care. But you can't practice self-care if you're not self-aware. If you don't know what it is you need to do to take care of yourself, just using these generic things is not it. It won't work. You're like, this ain't working. But it has to be customized, personalized to you. And the only way it can be customized is if you understand yourself well enough. I could tell you, oh, go read some books. But if you're not a book reader, that's not going to be self-care for you. That's going to be a task. That becomes a chore. Now I feel bad about myself for not doing what the therapist said to do. No, sis, you got to do what's best for you and not some prescribed thing. I tell people to journal. If you're not a journaling person, okay, let's move on to something different and find something else that helps you get introspective. But I'm not going to say you got to do the journaling or this isn't going to work for you because it don't work for everybody. Everybody don't want to write in a journal. Some people like to vlog. That's something I suggest, like just doing a video recording. But underlying takeaway, find what works for you. Self-care is a prescription. It is not this overall generalization of just getting something done. It has to be customized to you. Otherwise, it's just talk. It's not real.
That's so true. Well, I think that's a great place to end today. We're so happy to have you finally as our Bold Black Girl of the Month.
Yes, I'm excited about this Black Girl of the Month thing. Tell me.
So we are going to post this video on LinkedIn. And so, are you on LinkedIn?
I don't use it as good as I should, but I'm on.
Girl, you got to, let me tell you something. That is the little golden goose that people are forgetting about. And it's better than what Twitter, started out as, where you could just touch celebrities and do all that. Like literally, anyway, we could talk about that another time, but I'm gonna tell you that. And there has been actually more of an uptick of Black adoption of LinkedIn. They're calling it Black LinkedIn now. It's got its own hashtag and all that stuff now. But without all that, it's still, it's a good place to like reach your audience as well as other people that you want to connect with or companies or whatever it is.
I heard that lately.
Yeah. So we'll post on LinkedIn, kind of post a nice little cover for the video on YouTube. And really it's just a way to highlight you and shine a light and let people know that you're one of the people that we consider a bold Black girl. So
I am excited and so honored to be in the company of a bold Black girl's Woman of the Month.
Yes.
That's my gift for the month. I appreciate it. And I love y'all.
Oh, we love you.
And the title is just, you say the title real quick. Bold Black girls it is. So I am proud of y'all.
Yes. All right. Well, we thank you. You have a great rest of your day. You look like you're just like serene in this. I want you just to like, I feel like you need to just like lay out somewhere and vibe out and do your meditation and all that good stuff. I'm like, she got me ready to go get in my space. So I can get
space.
Exactly.
Thanks. Thank you guys.
Thank you.